Here we go. We're getting all situated. Boom. Hello. 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 Welcome, everybody. What we're doing is we're going to hang out and we're going to talk about Cloud Foundry and Korifi. I'm Deshaun. Nice to meet you. I'm a Spring Developer Advocate. And this is my good friend, Ram. Ram, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for
Oh,
having me on the
I got to
show,
put our
Deshaun.
background. It's always a pleasure. I love getting to hang out with you. I always learn so much from you. And yeah, what good times. Look at this. We have all sorts of folks coming in. If you're joining us, wherever you're joining us from, please, Ian, tell us where you're joining from. This is it's gonna be fun because my mom and dad are always watching. No matter what time it is, my mom and dad are always watching. I know that I'm always going to have at least one viewer when I do a live stream because mom and dad, I love your mom and dad, but they like to see where everybody's joining us from. Ron, where are you joining us from? I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. Where are you at?
I'm in Chennai, India.
Chennai. That's a long way away.
It
that's
it
that's a long ways
certainly
away.
is.
How was your day? Because I know it's evening. It's bright and early here. How was your day?
It's been good so far.
Fantastic, fantastic. Since the last time we talked, just a couple of weeks ago, since the last time we talked, we we've gotten a new version of Cloud Foundry Korifi,
Yep.
and I'm giddy. Like that's nice. It feels like when there's a new release, it feels like it was made just for me sometimes. This one definitely felt like it was just for me because it got released like right after I'd done some blog posts and I was just seeing the chatter, seeing what people are doing. It definitely feels like there's some momentum around this little project that we have. Have you noticed?
There is lots of interesting new contributors.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's cooler than cool, uh, because I even though I'm just running it on little Raspberry Pis, on these tiny little Kubernetes clusters, I'm running it mostly on K3s, but I
hmm
also do the kind deployment that we have in the tutorial. But even though I'm running on this little, very affordable, easy to run hardware, I still feel super powerful. Why is that? How can it be that I feel so powerful? Help me understand.
I think the tool itself, solves that interesting problem. Back in the day, I remember the Heroku git push master magic, and it's been on everybody's wish list that something like that come for the Kubernetes ecosystem as well, and here
Yep.
it is. I think that's a big part of what it is.
Uh, this is a safe place. I feel comfortable talking to you, and I know that we have viewers from all over the place. But I wanted to share something. I've seen this Kubernetes. I've seen Kubernetes, and I see where it can be, and it's awesome. It can go in a lot of different places where just normal Cloud Foundry can't, like on your laptop.
Yeah.
When I was doing uh, PCF, when I was wanting to have the PCF dev or the CF dev or the even Lattice before that,
hmm
I was always trying to get that CF push experience on my laptop, and here it is.
yep.
Like I have this nice, and even Kubernetes, like it works and it's available. I get a Kubernetes dial tone, or I get a Docker dial tone, and because I can get a Docker dial tone, I can get a Kubernetes dial tone, and that makes it nice. I can have this parity. Kubernetes has always been able to run on your laptop, a decent sized laptop, but it can run on a Raspberry
hmm
Pi. I'm running a single node Kubernetes on a Raspberry Pi, so I think that the barrier to entry is actually quite low to get into Kubernetes, and it doesn't have to be a 50 node cluster. You can get
Right.
started really easily. But the other piece about Kubernetes is Kubernetes isn't easy. It's not easy to
hmm
understand. There's a lot of people that are I would call them experts. I would call a lot of people that we share in common experts in Kubernetes, yet they still don't know everything. There's so
Sure.
much, and it's changing so fast that it's hard. And and this Korifi project, it makes it so that I can enjoy these Kubernetes clusters, that gets out of the way.
Yep.
Korifi takes Kubernetes out of the way because I can just do a CF push. And this magical networking stuff gets taken care of for me. My deployment stuff gets taken care of. I can scale up and down. It's really, really nice. Have you tried it? Have you tried Karifi?
Oh yeah, since the time it was released, obviously. So one of the, uh, I guess, perks of being in this role is you get to be user zero. So
Yes.
yeah, I've been trying it through the evolution of um, obviously its former avatars as CF for Gates and stuff before that, but also like Korifi when it was starting out, the community's made a lot of different changes to the way it's architected, and just going through each of these changes and appreciating all of the hard work that's gone into it. It's been fun so far.
Well, I want to tell you that I have this little project. It's been noodling in my head. I'll step back. When I was at university, I started hosting websites. Like I
Hmm.
started getting my hands dirty on the infrastructure. I had a data center in my house. I was doing the colo all over the world. So I had some of the operations concerns. I knew a little bit of the admin stuff, and I knew what that looked like. Uh, and I've kind of caught the bug again. I want to be able to. I want to be able to give production to people easily, and people that I don't know, my community, like people that are out there trying to learn Spring, specifically
Hmm.
Spring Boot. I want to give them a place to deploy it. I've been having this conversation a lot lately. If you want to learn something deeply, understand something deeply, I feel like you've got to take it to production. And the thing that I've been saying is I care more about a developer that has one thing running in production than a developer that has 20 GitHub repos with
Hmm.
various stuff. I would rather see one thing being taken care of in production and maintained and running than 20 side projects that don't live and I got to go and read their code.
Right, right.
So I'm trying to like give this away. And what that means is I've got to figure out a way to take Karifi and yeah, put some guardrails around it because I'm going to be giving away access, even though it's just Raspberry Pis. It's still in my
Sure.
house,
Oh
right?
yeah.
It's still in my house, so I got to be careful.
Hmm.
So I'm going to put some guardrails around, like, hey, your repository has to be public, so I can
Right.
go and see what's happening, and I'm only going to build from that public repo. So
Hmm.
I'm not giving away CF push access, but the developers are still like the changes that they make in their public repo are going to be reflected in these Karifi clusters. So yeah, yesterday I was hanging out with Ian, right? Ian, who's joining us from Kenya. I was
Hmm.
like, hey, let's get a domain up, let's get it up and running, and let's see what it looks like. And my head immediately went to like, what are I've only been doing this for me locally. So I immediately went
Right.
and I looked at the API. In this v0.14.0, we have UAA authentication, which I haven't played with yet. But then we've also got some service management upgrades, which I haven't even played with. With B013.0, we had some experimental support for service bindings.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the next step, like getting to that point where you can CF create service. Ooh, if I can do that here on Raspberry Pis, this is big. We have a project in the Spring ecosystem, in the
Hmm.
Spring world, called Spring Cloud Service Bindings or Service
Okay.
Broker. So I can actually create a Spring Boot app that will initialize and do the lifecycle management of services. That's pretty cool. So
Yeah.
I've been playing with that. I don't have anything to show in production or ready yet, but that's the project that I'm going to use to deploy these services. But I'm thinking big. I have 100-ish Raspberry Pis that are going to go into this public availability, and I've got two zones. I've got two
Okay.
networks that are coming into my house, And the way that I'm deploying things, it'll be active active. So I'll be able to deploy CF push to two different clusters.
Hmm.
And the way that I'm using Cloudflare D, that traffic will get load balanced across those two clusters. So that if one of
Right.
those clusters I trip over a power plug or whatever, it's still going to be served on the other one. And the nice thing is I can build the image once with build packs and I can deploy it to both clusters. So
Oh yeah.
the deployment is nice. I can do rolling deployments if I want to. I can do canary deployments. This is really, really cool. Have you taken 014 for a spin yet?
Yeah.
Have you tried any
I've
of the new features? Tell me.
I've been toying with the services stuff that's on 14.
Okay.
So services has been a big part of the past few weeks, and obviously the next few weeks. And what was interesting to me is at KubeCon in Salt Lake City,
Uh huh.
the number of booths there that said enterprise Kubernetes and Kubernetes services made simpler, and better databases on Kubernetes and things like that. So all of them are starting to experience this problem of not having the right tool set in place that can do self-service and really provide for like large scale Kubernetes deployments in terms of services and things like that. And so uh, at KubeCon that's coming up in London, the whole services story is going to be a big part of what we're going to talk about.
When is KubeCon London?
The 1st to the 4th of April.
I might have to rearrange my schedule. Uh, oh, of April, 1st to the
Yeah.
4th of April. Hold on, I'm looking at my calendar real quick, and I apologize because this is not great content. Me looking at my calendar, but the 1st to the 4th of April. Uh, Fantastic. I'm going to insert one row, and I'm going to just put this here as a placeholder. Thanks. That's awesome. Especially if you're going to be there, and then I want to be there. This
Cool.
is this is good. So yeah, what I'm working on. Do you mind if I like share my screen and just kind of like jump into some stuff?
Please go for it.
Just like it's demo. We don't have an agenda, right? I just wanted to hang
Hmm.
out with you.
Oh yeah.
So let's let's do it this way. So what I did last night, let's go kube cuddle get nodes dash o wide. Whoops. I will make this bigger so everybody can see. Hey, I stood this up 8 hours ago. I should have been sleeping, but I couldn't sleep. I was really excited about this. So I stood up this and I called it Blender because this is kind of a cool thing. One of the workarounds that I had done in the past, and I've told you about it, I had a blended Kubernetes. I had ARM64 architecture
Mm.
blended with AMD 64 architecture running as a single cluster, and that was cool because KPAC didn't have ARM64 images, and I was young. I didn't
Right.
know. Hey, I've done many workarounds to get KPAC working on these devices, but now I don't have to. My workaround is much easier. But I stood this up, and I deployed Korifi. I did the install. Actually, I already have this. I did the install of Korifi, and we can see that just 8 hours ago. I pushed all these things, but I don't remember where I stopped because it was late.
Okay.
So I look. I got this is the bin format. This is the emulation that allows me to run KPAC. I've
Okay.
got Korifi installed. I've got the Korifi gateway. Everything looks like I'm good. Project Contour, but I don't have a way to get to it. So what I did, the API that I used, let's go to fun, Deshaun dash dev, Korifi Pi, and I have to put in my password. And I put in my password because I don't like to share my passwords when I'm doing live streams. So the way that I do this, and I think I've shown you this before, is I don't like to keep passwords on disk at all.
Hmm.
So I put this file, it's called .envrc. It uses dir.m. So when I come into this directory, it's trying to populate my environment variables. Sounds
Right.
familiar, right? So in this space, I'm letting my system provide the environment variables, but I needed to do this. I needed to
Mm-hmm.
get a secret from my secret store. So that's why I had to log in with my password because I don't want my secrets on disk. I want to be safe. So now that I have my environment set up, I can see that here's the domain that I set up for that environment. I don't know if I've logged in. CF apps. Oh, it looks like okay. It looks like I made a Deshaun
Yeah,
Dev org. Let's see. Did I make any others orgs? So I have a Deshaun Dev org, and I'm just doing CF spaces. I should probably bump that up a little bit too.
that's good.
CF spaces. I just made one. This I've been using Cloud Foundry for a while, and this I kind of take for granted.
Yes.
Um,
I was just going to say, even all of this stuff with spaces and orgs has gone through a few revisions. I remember the first release of Korifi, we were doing hierarchical namespaces, and that was a thing back then. And
that was like a request, though. That it wasn't
yeah,
like we decided to just change things. It was a request to map to some other thing, and now what?
and now we're writing our own CIDs, and so the architecture right now doesn't make use of that. We use something that's much more performant than hierarchical namespaces. And if you notice, when you deploy an app, it'll get its own pod under the space name with like a UID and things like that.
Yep.
Uh, but then obviously, we don't want developers to be looking at those. So they're going to get the more polished CF apps, CF spaces, CF orgs, that kind of experience.
So here's the way this is my pattern, and any pattern works. Just like stick to it to save yourself some pain. I make the org in my Cloud Foundry foundations and across whatever I'm using. I make the org map to my GitHub org,
Okay.
right? So that for convenience. So that's what I'm doing. So one of the things I was in the middle of, I don't know if I finished it before we were on here. Um, we pushed this. I made this thing, cat Etsy hosts. I didn't push this public, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is an internal IP. I
Right.
think that's a good practice. You don't want your Cloud Foundry API being exposed to the world
Sure.
for any reason. So I made that private. I put a little Etsy host so I could get to it. So that's how I'm connecting to the API is because I hard coded it. That's cool. But let me remind myself the shared domains. I think I just do CF shared domains. How do I see the domains? It's just domains.
CF domains.
CF domains. All right. So right now I just have one domain. This
Right.
is what's coming in. That's where things are. But I don't want that to be my domains. I don't want that to be the thing that people have to type in. I got little domains like Deshaun.dev. So we talked about CF push. We talked about orgs and spaces. This is a valuable concept. We do kind of take it for granted. So I want to just take a couple of steps, and I want to finish what I was working on. I deployed the secrets,
Mm-hmm.
and then this is what I want to show you. Hello, Cloudflare D. This is the config that I deployed. So I already deployed the secret, but I didn't deploy Cloudflare D. Cloudflare D, I will show you here. This allows me to expose my Cloudflare, my Cloud Foundry, or my Kubernetes, or whatever I was doing. I've used it for many, many things. It allows me to expose this Raspberry Pi to the public. So right now,
Okay.
let me show you this. I'm going to step back again. Kube cuddle get nodes dash o wide. This is my house,
Hmm.
right? This is my house. This is where I live, and I don't want public IPs. I don't create ingress. I don't do any of that because I've got kids. I don't want to put anything at risk. So I don't have any external IPs. What's the tool that Metal IP? Is that what it is? That exposes and sets up your ingress automatically for your network. I don't do that. What I'm doing is I'm just setting it up like it's my laptop, and it could be my laptop. But when I want to
Sure.
expose it to the world, I add Cloudflare D, and this is just going to deploy. I typically do 2 nodes. Actually, I typically do one, but it's 2 nodes or 2 pods by default. So I don't have an external IP. So there's no way to get to that unless you're on my network right now. So let's fix that. And I've seen a lot of solutions for this, but I've always been a active person, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've probably seen that, Deshaun.com. My children will never deploy active passive. That's just the way that it is. My children will never deploy active passive. They'll make their bed, they brush their teeth. Active is the way that we do things in this
Right.
house. I don't know how it is in your house, but this is what we do. So with that in mind, I've always been thinking active. That's kind of like my
Mm-hmm.
default go-to. So even with this Raspberry Pi and Korifi, I'm deploying to multiple clusters. I have 2 networks in my house, one that's wired, one that's over the 5G internet. But they're both.
Okay.
I'm not like doing anything magic. I'm letting my global load balancing handle that traffic. But I could put one of these clusters at your house, and I could balance traffic across all of them with Cloudflare D. I'm letting that
Mm.
go. And if you're on Azure Front Door, that's what I was using in this talk. Like, there's tons of these options to
Sure.
handle and route traffic, geo direct it to whatever's closest. Tons of options. This is just the one that I choose. So this is what I'm installing. This is the YAML, and I made a change just yesterday for the first time. So this is all the default YAML. I'm actually going to change this to 1
Okay.
for now. I'll probably change it back, but I changed it to 1 because I have 2 clusters. Why do I need 2 clusters with 2 of them, right? These are just on Raspberry Pis. The resilience that I don't need it in 1 cluster. I'm putting it in 2. So in my head, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in my head, I will get the necessary resilience because I'm using
Mm-hmm.
2 clusters. Instead of having 2 replicas in 1 cluster, I put the exact same config in 2 clusters.
Mm-hmm.
That's my approach. So I changed that to 1. I'm not changing anything else. I'm going to go all the way down here. This is the big change that I made. This is where we config what's happening. So what I was doing, because I was using Knative before, I was putting a host name in for every host that I wanted to handle on this cluster. I was putting a host name in. But yesterday, when I was working with Ian, I realized that I don't have to do that. Any traffic that comes to this tunnel because of my DNS routing, because of what I've
Mm-hmm.
done over in Cloudflare D or Cloudflare where I set up my DNS. I'm pointing these DNS names to this tunnel. So any traffic that comes here, this is much easier than what I had to do with Knative. Any traffic that comes into this cluster, I'm just sending it straight to the gateway. Because
Okay.
again, when I talk about all the things that are taken care of, I assumed a couple of days ago, I was like, oh no, I got to do this. How's it going to figure it out? No, all of this awesome networking and management is all taken care of. I don't have to do anything. So
Mm-hmm.
anything that comes into this cluster through this tunnel, which this is the config, anything that comes in here, it just gets handled by Project Contour and the Korifi Gateway, which is awesome,
Nice.
right? And I'll show you like the difference. I don't need to. Like what I was doing before was like I was saying, hey, star.pykarifi.cc, then it goes to the gateway. But I had a bunch of these lines that were the exact same, and I was like, silly guy, just anything
Yeah.
that's coming in here, send it. So that's the only change I made in this file was I switched from 2 replicas to 1. Let's
Okay.
push it. Kubectl apply -f that cloud flare d. So now let's go take a look. Here's that Cloudflare D coming up. It's been up for 5 seconds. Now it's ready to route traffic. Oh, but it says there's an error. What could that error be? I thought that I had deployed it. I don't. I'm not sure. Maybe I do need, maybe the star is not good. Uh, Rule number one is
Yeah.
matching the host name star. This will match every host name, meaning the rules. So it's saying, hey, we don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So let's do this. Uh, I'm glad I did that. Let's go look at that and let's just change it. Let's make it not rule number one. Let's put it down here. Does that sound good? That sounds like a good option. So like, hey, if you're coming in and this, but anything else, I want that to go. Um, yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with getting my status codes from my Cloudflare or from my Contour. Let's see if this works.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do it this way because it usually goes a little bit faster. Kubectl delete clarity, and then do the apply. I want to keep one of these open. Let's do this. Oh, it still doesn't like that star. So maybe that's why I was doing it the other way. So it says, hey, you got star. It'll match every host name, meaning the rules which follow it will never be triggered. Oh, so, okay, so that's cool. We know the answer. We know the answer to that. I just don't need this. Bang, bang. Bang, bang. Like, just send it all through. It was just complaining that, hey, there's another rule after it, and that won't work. So now, hey, Cloudflare. But this is Kubernetes. I'm just dealing with Kubernetes. And I just deployed Cloudflare D, and now any traffic that I send to this tunnel will come into my Contour via the gateway.
Right.
That's cool. So now, CF domains. I don't want to use this domain. I want to use Deshawn.dev. So this is just an easy thing. Managing all the traffic, managing where the things go. Like, you saw this Kubernetes, this YAML. It was defaults, and that was hard enough. That's all the YAML that I want to deal with, to be honest.
Right.
So let's do. I have some cheat codes over here because I've done this a few times. We're going to CF create shared domain called Deshawn.dev. This used to be pointing to another Raspberry Pi cluster running Knative, and I didn't like it. I'm switching everything. So here we go. Now I've got a domain, CF domains, and I can see, cool, I can use this domain to route my traffic. That's nice. Now let's push something. Remember, I have these apps over here. These are all things. Do I have anything fun that'll be easy to push? See, I'm trying to simplify things. We'll make something new. Or no, here, let's check this out. This will be good. I like gateways. Gateways are nice. So what I'm gonna do, and this is all public. These are public repos. So if you want to follow along, you're more than welcome to. And again, we're just hanging out. So if you've got questions, ask. I like to say that when you come to my house for dinner, if you leave hungry, that's your fault. We're here. We have Ram here. Ram knows all the things. If you've got questions, ask. Ask in the chat. We're happy to help. Don't leave hungry. So I'm going to just grab this. It's embarrassingly old, but that's okay. We're going to grab it. Remember what I had to do way back in the day was I had to do an ARM 64 build over on Circle CI because they had ARM 64 runners. And then I was doing the AMD 64 build over here on GitHub. But you know what that means also? If I go to hub.deshawn.com/u Deshawn, that means that I've probably got a gateway for Deshawn.dev. Dev, here we go. So I can really just go and grab this and watch this. This is nice. I can do, and we did this before. I can do CF push. Let me make sure where I'm at. CF target. Let me make sure I'm in the right org and space. Cool. I'm in Deshawn.dev. I want to push something to production. Let's make sure that there's nothing there. www.deshawn.dev. Fantastic. There's nothing there. I'm sending all the traffic to this tunnel, but it's not there. That's okay. I want that error. That's what I expected. We're doing a little bit of TDD. Um, oh, here's a good question. It says, I don't have any real experience with Knative, but what was it about Knative that you disliked, if I may ask? I'll tell you, the thing that I disliked the most is that with Knative, it takes over the whole cluster. It doesn't leave me a lot of flexibility to do things a different way. The reason that I was using Knative in the first place, I like to be able to scale to zero. That was a nice benefit. That's something that Cloud Foundry today doesn't offer, but I still like this route better because I have Keta. I can deploy Keta and I can scale other services to zero, and I can have my Cloud Foundry gateway, for example, can be my route. So I like the ease of which that I can deploy and configure the networking, but I don't have to give away the whole cluster. And side by side, the Knative, what Knative provides and how much resources it uses, I like Cloud Foundry better for that reason too, because I like to deploy things to affordable devices. I like to deploy, and I want, forgive me, I'm being selfish. I want enterprise grade. I want production ready, but I don't want to pay for it. I want to put it on these little devices. So that's what I do. That's what drives me. I'm working on a book. You look for it, Spring Boot on the Edge, where we're taking Spring Boot workloads and we're running them on the edge, on Raspberry Pi clusters, on small footprint clusters. Karen says, question for Ram, can Korifi work with traffic?
So we've
I know why he's asking.
yeah, he's probably tried it on K3s and
Yes.
it doesn't work. Yeah.
So that's what
When
I'm
I
doing.
tried it with K3s, it did not work, so I had to disable traffic. But we can check the status of what that is with the community and
Yeah.
figure that out.
I'll show here. I'm not really worried about it. Let me go all the way up. And the way that I'm deploying K3S is I'm simply adding this.
Yep.
Yeah, disable traffic. And I'll tell you what, traffic's great, but with Knative as well. Knative provides, right, this idea of a platform. You got to have all the things working together, or it's not really a platform. So I like having the fully supported stack, the platform being delivered together, whether you're using Knative or Korifi. So I'm going to go ahead and default to using Contour. I don't want to do the extra mess of making traffic work. And Contour is a great project as well. So
Certainly is.
just, Karen, just disable traffic. Let everything be handled by Project Contour and the Korifi Gateway. That's my advice. Because I am. These clusters, what I'm using is I'm using K3S, either K3S standalone or K3D running in Docker. This is the fun, great, affordable, easy to get to way of running. So good question. Thank you for asking. It's always a pleasure when you're here. So we're here in the right spot. What we're going to do is we're going to push that image that we already had, in our container. So I'm going to do cf push. I'm going to call it www dash Sean dash dev, just to give me some visibility. And I'm going to say dash docker image, and I'm just going to give the image name. Let's grab a version. No, we'll just do latest. Oops. Do I have a latest? I guess we'll find out. I wish I could say that I had scripted this and we had a great plan and I could tell you exactly what we're going to learn today, but I can't. We're hanging out. Karen asked another question. Can I add more than one route to Contour, like MTLS and normal TLS with different domains? MTLS and normal TLS. Yeah, like that's what we're doing right now. So I just pushed this service gateway. I used my little naming conventions. So now I have an app that's up and running, CF apps. But it's only going to this route, this internal route. So what I want to do now is I want to create, I want to go down here and use my cheat codes. I want to create this route here. So I'm going to do cf create route for our domain is Deshaun.dev, and on that host I want www. Does that look good?
Mm-hmm.
So, whoops, what did I do wrong? Oh, wait.
Host name.
Oh, host name. Yeah, thank you. Host name. So now I've got a route that I can send traffic to, but now I want to map that route to my app, right? So cf map route for www Deshaun-dev on to Deshaun.dev -- host name www. Does that look right? It looks right to me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's give it a try. So now if I do clear, I'll bring it back up to the top. Now I can see that this app has a new route. And this route, when I say route, it means it's just directing traffic. Just like your node routes that you put in your gateway, just like all the other, it's a route. I'm just saying, hey, when I get traffic, I've got something that's handling these routes and I don't have to do anything. I just, hey, I want to add a route to here. So I've got routes and I can reuse it and I can send it to multiple places. This is neat. But now that I have this, now if I go back to here to this broken web page, didn't we have a broken one? www.deshaun.dev. It works. Look at that. We've been live streaming for 37 minutes. We deployed a image that was already, it was already there.
Right.
But we deployed it. It works. Like this is ta-da. But we don't have to stop there. Like the whole idea is I can route. Now I have this tunnel to Cloudflare. If I take this same, you know what I can do? I can deploy multiple routes. I can deploy multiple Cloudflare D instances to different clusters. I could deploy another domain here, but I have to shut it down from the others. So let's go take a look. Let's just pause. MV says, I honestly prefer this rather than something scripted. Well, thank you. I learn better this way. And I'll be honest, I'm trying to hang out and learn from Ram. So that's what we're doing. Karen says, the domain is up already. Lovely stuff, Deshaun. If you are a hugger, I am a hugger.
He
so
is.
When we do hang out, I'm a hugger. So yeah, this is the benefit. Now, I just want to remind, I don't have cloud money. I have Raspberry Pi money. This Korifi.cc, that domain is running on this single Raspberry Pi that's in my closet over there. And so is Ian's website. Let's go to Ian's website. We did this yesterday, www.ianmongs.org. This is his Vaadin website, also running on this single Raspberry Pi. Now, what we just deployed to, I already showed kubectl get nodes. I've got 4 nodes here. So this is different. But I called it Blender because these are all 8 gig nodes. I do have a Raspberry Pi 5 that has 16 gigs, right? When I first did this Korifi V013 deployment to this Raspberry Pi cluster, the day after I published the blog, the 16 gig one got announced. That's my luck. The day after I got my M3, the M4 got announced. Like, this is just how things go for me. But I'm going to be adding that Raspberry Pi 5 with 16 gig. I'm going to add that to the cluster so that my nodes are not going to be the same. And this is okay. This is an okay thing with Cloud Foundry. It's also an okay thing with Kubernetes. Like, I understand it. Sometimes I just need more power. Sometimes I need a little bit more RAM. And sometimes the device that's running in production, I can't go get another one of those. So I grab something else. I'm going to add that 16 gig Raspberry Pi 5. But also, this is the real reason. I have this. This is the new Jetson Nano Orin. This is from NVIDIA, that it's still a ARM64 processor. I can still add it to my cluster, but it also has a little NVIDIA GPU on it. So this is the other thing that I get to do is on this cluster, I get to start doing some interesting AI type things.
Mm-hmm.
I can serve models because I have
Right.
the GPU power, right? And because it's a Kubernetes cluster, I'll just make sure that the nodes that are trying to that need GPU that they land on the node with GPU. It's
Right.
that simple. So that's what I'm going to be working on later today. Uh, and hello, welcome from Kenya. Like I love my people in Kenya, and we're having fun. This is cool to me. I feel like I want to do another org and another domain just to kind of show like, hey, this it's a really cool process. I can, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do spaces. Let's say I want to leave www.deshaun.dev. I want to leave that running, but I also want to like make some changes. I want to see my work, so I'm going to have a dev space. CF create space. I'm going to put it in Deshaun-dev, but I'm going to call it dev or test. We'll call it test. Oh, it's handling all the management for me. And then let's switch over to that test. In that test space, CF apps. Now, I don't see the production one. I'm not at risk of messing with production. Production still works. Let's go make sure production still works. Whew. All right, production still works. This is good. Let's do something else. Let's go the way that I like to organize myself. The thing that you brought up. This
Mm-hmm.
is our image. This is our image that's running. Here's our Spring Boot app. This is embarrassing. This is embarrassing. Spring Boot 3.4.2 is the latest and greatest. I'm embarrassed. I apologize. But look at this. It started up in a few dozen milliseconds. That's clearly a native image. We have the AOT processing. This is awesome, right? So it's a tiny image. That's good. That's nice. We can do that.
Yep.
Cloud Foundry Korifi can run those native images. That's cool. Let's do some experimenting. The way that I like to organize myself, I didn't want to do it here. I want to do K9s here still. I want to go back over here. And I want to go to CD fun, because the stuff that I do is fun. And I will go into Deshaun.dev. That's the org that I want to be working in.
Mm-hmm.
I got to type in my password. Hopefully that works. I have a hard time talking and typing. Oh, I got to type in another one. All right, so now I've got some keys. I got some very secret stuff that I didn't want to share. That's cool. Let's see if I have the gateway. I do. Dev Deshaun service gateway. SDK. Oh, it says when I came in here, I had a SDK manRC file that says, hey, let's use 21.0.2, but I don't even have that installed anymore. So cat.sdkmanrc, just like with my durm file, when I come into this folder, it says, hey, here's the Java version that I want you to use on this project.
Right.
That's old. That's as embarrassing as the Spring Boot 3.2. So let's fix that. Let's do SDK list Java. And actually, let's do it this way. Pipe grep installed. And let's see what I got installed. I've got 2102 Graal CE. I got 2105 Liberica, which looks like it's the latest. SDK list
Mm.
Java pipe grep Liberica. 2105. We got 2106. Why would I use 2105 if I got 2106? I like to be on the latest and greatest version of everything. So let's switch to 2106. So we're going to say SDK use. Oh, you know what else I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. Nano SDK manRC. And I'm just going to say, hey, let's just change this to 2106. And then watch. CD fun Sean dash dev service gateway. I'm gonna have to type in my passwords again. one more time. And then that SDK-NRC file, it says, hey, you don't have this installed. Because I didn't, it just came out. So let's do SDK env install. And now it's going to go ahead and install that JDK, and then I'll be using it in this directory. It's that easy. So when you clone my project, you're gonna be all set up with what you need to be running. Because the other thing I have in here is the Maven wrapper. I got the Maven wrapper, and those properties, cat.mvn wrapper properties, that tells you that I want to use 3.9.3. So you are implicitly, explicitly, we're saying, hey, this is the Maven version that you're using, this is the Java version you're using, and I'm doing that from the files that are in my repository. I like that. That's just my pattern. But we still have a little problem. The Spring Boot version that we're running is out of date. So let's get pull, make sure that we're on the latest code, mvnw Spring Boot run. I don't even know if I have these files cached. It might take a while for all these files to come down. This has been a while since I touched this repo because I don't use jgitver anymore. I like the pattern, but I don't use jgitver anymore. The way that I like to release projects is from their git tag. So what jgitver does is it'll just update the Maven project with whatever tag it's closest to. All right, so this is not great. Let's see if we can fix that. Yeah, let's do. Yeah, let's do this. Let's see how hard it is. I know that 3.4.2 is the latest. I don't think. Oh no, there is. There's going to be some issues. We've made a couple of changes. We're going to have to go here and change 3.4.2, but we're also going to have to change our Spring Cloud version. And the way I'm going to cheat here is I'm going to go over here to start.spring.io, and I'm just going to go gateway, and then I'm going to look at what version of Spring Cloud it brings in. Boom. That's all I'm going to change. So now I'm on the latest. Let's grab those dependencies, because I'm embarrassed. I am firsthand embarrassed that I showed you that I had a project, a repository that wasn't patched. It wasn't secure. It was. It might even be like out of support. All right. If I go over here to spring.io and I go look at the project, Spring Boot, I don't like being this far out of. Oh, it is. Look at that. It's not even OSS support anymore. There's no new open source releases coming for 3.2. That's how old that was. 3.5 early access is out. I'm going to stick on 3.4.2 because I'm taking it to production. But if 3.5 works, like, take it to production. I'm comfortable with that. I've seen Josh Long do snapshot development for years, so I'm comfortable. So here, I don't know what we're doing on here. I would rather type in my password a bunch than have passwords sitting on my disk. So let's see if my updates worked. mvnw. Actually, I'll do it out here because it's easier to see. Clear mvnw Spring Boot run. Fingers crossed. 3.4.2. It's up and running. We've made some improvements. Let's take this to production. How does that sound? Because I'm embarrassed. Let's take this to production. But first, let's take it to dev.
Test, yeah.
Yeah, test. CF apps. There's nothing here. Let's do this. CF push www or test www Deshaun dev. That's all I'm going to do. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? It's uploading the files. I didn't touch a Docker file. I didn't do anything. I'm just trying to hey, does this work? Does this work in an environment that's as close to production as possible? I don't know how you can get much closer to production than being on the same cluster, but I digress. I could be running this on my laptop. This is sending all of the code from this directory It's setting it up. It's using build packs under the covers. We can actually go and take a look behind the scenes. Oh, it's not uploaded yet. But what we're going to do is we're going to see a build kicking off pretty soon. We're doing it live. What could possibly go wrong? I've done this enough. The interesting part here is that when I deployed Korifi to these Raspberry Pis, I deployed this bin format, the emulation. I had to put this emulation on every node in order to get KPAC to work. But what that means is KPAC is running as an AMD 64 image.
Okay.
So the containers that it's generating are going to be AMD 64. That's okay.
Got it.
Like let's just let it work. Why is it? It says it's 100% uploaded. There we go.
Yeah.
So other differences that I made since I did the first blog post was I changed from running on the micro SSD cards like these things.
Okay.
These are much slower. They're faster these days, but they're slower. I put in the USB drives, these SanDisk ones, and I got fast ones,
Okay.
USB 3.2 drives. And so now I'm booting from USB drives. I've got a little bit more room for storage. And the first time I did it, I didn't give it enough power. If you don't give Raspberry Pi 5s need 5 volts, 5 amps. So they need 25 watts in order to start up properly. I don't like to use a bunch of the Raspberry Pi plugs. I don't have room. Like if you're going out on the edge, you don't want a bunch of these big plugs. So I use a USB power hub to do it. And I upgraded a power hub so that I have a power USB charger. I picked it up from Anker that will push out 200 watts of power. So because it can push out 200 watts of power, it can power 4 of these Raspberry Pi 5s, and it can power the little network switch that I have, which is a Ubiquiti Mini Lite, one of these guys. So this is my default configuration for how I'm deploying things for power and for network. And yeah, when I add these other 2 devices, I will put them on a different USB hub because the NVIDIA needs even more power.
Right.
And the other Raspberry Pi 16 gig, I'll put those on they'll be in a different physical cluster, but they'll still be a part of the same Kubernetes cluster. So question here says, Deshaun, have you tried Korifi or K3S on Raspberry Pi 4? Yes, comparing them to, yes. These right here are the Raspberry Pi 4s, and this is what's coming next. This is a Raspberry Pi 4 on the bottom with the Raspberry Pi 02Ws connected with a cluster hat, and then these are 2 Raspberry Pi 4s. So yes, we're going to have, the goal here is to have all of the Raspberry Pis deployed and all of them running Korifi. So even the Raspberry Pi 02Ws, or I'm not going to deploy it with Wi-Fi. It's going to be wired, but this will actually become a part of the cluster just like these are. They're the same. They will become nodes in the cluster. They only have 512 gigabytes or megabytes of memory. But I have done this with the Raspberry Pi 3B Plus that also only has 512 megabytes. So stay tuned. I'm going to have more clusters. The difference is the 4s use less memory or less power than the 5s. The 3s use even less power. So depending on what you're trying to do, I'm at the point where I've got some use cases where the Raspberry Pi 3, a cluster of Raspberry Pi 3s, is actually a better choice than a cluster of Raspberry Pi 5s because of power consumption. Because if I'm putting it out into a tree, or I want it to be solar powered, and I want to be powering it from a battery pack, then I don't want to be pushing out 25 watts. Maybe I only want to be pushing out 12 watts. That's a big difference. right? That battery pack can support and maintain with a solar panel a lot longer with Raspberry Pi 3s or even Raspberry Pi 02Ws. So there's a lot of things that I'm weighing, but I'm definitely in my mind thinking there I might have to get some more Raspberry Pi 3 B plus for some of these use cases. So yeah, stay tuned. Good question though. What's happening here? It still says it's staging. Let's go take a look. I don't see what I expected to see was like my build, and I'm
Hmm.
wondering if I've done something weird with routing or just taking time. Um, I'm not sure. It shouldn't take this long. Normally, it's not taking this long, but I don't know what is wrong at the moment, and that's okay. Um, we're not going to panic. This is nice. We're still doing things. Uh, the one thing I do know is that KPAC, because it's running on with the emulation on the Raspberry Pis, it takes a little bit longer. If I go
Yeah.
here, I think I have this running locally. Ooh, CTX. Right, I have this other cluster, kind, on this Mac, right? Kind BCN. Whoops, CTX. Kind. Oh, that'll mess things up if I switch to that cluster now. But here on this Mac, uh, I'm running the kind deployment of Korifi. You can see it's still no, it's still V013, but I have that running. And on the Mac, the build, it's got more power. The CPU is better and it goes fast. This, I did, it was taking a while, but I was deploying to a single node. When I was doing this previously, it wasn't taking this long. But this is okay. We're going to figure this out. I'm not going to panic, uh, but I do not know. So I'm going to let it play. I'm going to see what's happening. What I expected was I expected to see another pod start up to do the build process, and I don't see that yet. But it took a while to upload. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to hit Control
Yeah.
C, and I'm going to do MDNW. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to MDNW clean. Oh, I wonder if my extensions are giving it problems. I'm just wondering. I don't know if it is or not. So this is slow. All right, this is slowness on my Apple. Uh, do you remember when you joined the stream? Like, I've been having some network issues on my Apple. So this might be an Apple because I'm doing the stream related thing.
Mm.
So let's try this again. CF push. It might be because my this Apple is in a bad place. I am connected to Wi-Fi for the home network and the lights and stuff, and also my it's wired. So sometimes I get into a bad state, especially when I'm streaming. I ran into this yesterday where I had the big beach ball in the middle of the stream. Big beach ball, my camera froze. You could still hear me, but everything was a mess. And I'm wondering if I just have to do the old operator reboot. But that's okay. This is definitely taking too long, and I don't want to. I don't want to just sit here and wait because it's 8 o'clock. I can't believe that we've been streaming for an hour already. I cannot believe that we've been streaming for an hour already.
Yeah, me neither.
We're gonna keep on doing this. Uh, I'm gonna have to do some network diagnostics because that shouldn't take that long. But let's do this. Just because I don't want to end on that note. We stop the push. We're gonna do Kube CTX. We're gonna switch to kind BCN, which is this local cluster. I have to do a CF API localhost. Wait, API localhost
Love.
skip SSL validation. So it's going to use this. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I do CF login, and I'm going to choose this guy, and it's going to say, oh, bad token, because Uh, I have to do fun. I'm using CF admin as my user across all of my clusters. So it's trying to use the token from the other cluster to log in.
Right.
So let's do this fun uh, Sean dev Korifi Pi Korifi scripts create CF admin, give my admin a new token, and then let's do CF login with CF admin. Cool. And let's go to Java Grunt Dev and CF apps. And then let's go back to our other directory, CF push test Sean dev. Let's see if this works. So this is on an old version. So this is definitely a networking issue on my machine. Oh, there we go. So it's going. It's connecting to that local cluster and it's doing all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So bummer that it didn't work, but hey, we're professionals. We've got tons of these environments up and running. This Korifi can run anywhere you've got Docker, you can run it. If you've got a Raspberry Pi, you can run it. So yeah, it's fun. If you like to get to production and you don't like to deal with a bunch of YAML, you don't care about ingress and pods and setting up builds, you don't like using Docker files, maybe you should take a look at Korifi. This is going to go, of course it's going to work. But I know that we are at time, and I know that my boss is ready for me to have a meeting here in a little bit. So this works. Life is good. Ram, this has been fun. I just like getting to hang out with you and show off cool stuff. Can we do it
Oh yeah,
again?
we
Can we do it
should.
again? Because yeah, I want to get that service broker demo working,
Mm-hmm.
so that when I come in, I can be like, oh yeah, let me connect some services, and oh by the way, let me deliver some managed some tokens that I can rotate, some keys that
Right.
I can rotate, and let my platform take care of it. That's what I want to do next.
Yeah, let's do it.
What's top of mind for you right now? What are your side projects?
No, it's been a lot of build packs towards
Oh,
the
I
end
love
of
build
last
packs.
year.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
build packs. That's good. I
So
tried to get the K-Pack. I tried to change my cluster builder to
mm-hmm.
use the multi-architecture build packs, but because K-Pack is running the AMD containers, it thinks that it's on AMD. So
On
even when I
AMD.
use
Yeah.
the multi-architecture build pack, and is there a way that when I do a CF push that I can specify the platform? I don't think that's exposed.
No,
Yeah.
no, that's designed to be a build packs problem to solve, not a CF push problem to solve. But the workaround, and I think we spoke about this a little bit, is if you know what images you have on Docker Hub and you know which ones you want to push, you can use CF push to
Yep.
target those specific images. So that's the best way
Yeah.
we can do it right now.
And just between you and me, KBack doesn't release ARM64 images, but I think I know how to build ARM64 images of KPack. So keep that a secret. If I make any progress, I'll share it. Of course, uh, I I get the sense that the problem isn't about the builds. From what I can see,
Hmm.
it's that they just don't have infrastructure to build it. They don't have the
Right,
ARM 64
right.
infrastructure, and we have solutions. Right, the emulation on
Oh
today's
yeah,
processors, emulation is amazing, and it doesn't add that much time. So we'll give it a try. I'll keep you posted. If I do make some
cool,
progress down that path, you'll be the first to know.
awesome.
Ram, this is just fun. I just like hanging out with you. I'm glad that you're in the spot that you're in and that you're doing such a great job for this community. And I want to say thank you. Thank you for letting
Thanks,
me just
Trishan.
like show off the stuff that I'm doing in my home lab. And I would like to do it again.
Cool, let's do it.
Uh, do you want to share any contact information if people are interested in finding you on the internets?
Yeah, I'm mostly Ram Iyengar everywhere. It's just first name, last name.
All right.
I know it's not the simplest to spell, so my X handle would just be that. I think that's true of GitHub as well. And you can just look for Rama Iyengar on LinkedIn. And
All right.
I'm responsive at most places.
Wonderful. Keith, you're joining late. We're just wrapping up. We're just having fun. We're hanging out. But yeah, make sure everybody hit that subscribe button, and we'll be doing this again soon. So until next time, thanks everybody. It's been a pleasure. Thanks again, Ram. Thanks
Thanks,
everybody for joining.
everyone.
Take